Hello, peeps. Your
We're
favorite
back.
real pastors are back.
We did it.
We're, yep, we did it. We made it a whole series of weekly reviews. I'm so proud of us.
I I don't want to tear up on the show, but I'm happy. Loki
Yeah.
Live is back.
Yes, and we are going to be talking about the series finale. We will give our thoughts, maybe reviews, sure,
Actually,
whatever. But
hold
yeah,
on, I want to correct
uh-oh,
you. Season finale.
season finale. True, true.
Spoiler
So
alert. Sorry.
yeah. So on that note, we will be spoiling the heck out of this whole series, because this does, wrap stuff up, I guess. But we will be spoiling the heck out of this thing. We're going to be spoiling this episode, everything. There's no way you can talk about this episode without spoiling it. So if you haven't watched it yet, as always, hit pause, go watch it, spend 45 minutes, come back, and then finish up this review that we have for you today.
Yeah. Key point. Come back, please.
Yeah. So, I had this up here, but you know what? You did say season. But either way, I'll work on
Hey,
it later.
it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we are. So yesterday, Gary texted me and he was like, "Hey, man, I watched the episode. I'm not saying a thing more," because he knew I hadn't seen it yet. I watched it last night. And as I was watching this thing, just to jump right in here, Gary, you said something interesting before we went live. Will you tell him the kind of vibes you were getting as you were watching this thing?
Well, first thing I want to just say, going back to what we just said a little bit ago, I've watched Loki all season like it's a one-off. Like a one-off show. So that's been my mindset. So when I started this yesterday morning, I got my coffee, got ready to go, and then I saw it was only 45 minutes long. I was like, oh no, how are they going to wrap all this up in 45 minutes? And then it starts to happen. But what I told Efren is this: I started to get some Mandarin vibes.
Yeah.
As it went on, as stuff was revealed, I was like, don't do this again, Marvel. Haven't you learned your lesson? No. But it went away. Those vibes went away.
Yep. It made sense. At the same time, I was getting the same kind of vibes. I was like, really? We're going to do this with our villain? We're just going to make him this kind of goofy guy? I mean, look, listen, let me pull up this shot for you guys. Like, especially once this happened, I was just like, are you kidding? Like, this is what we're doing right here. And I mean, because this shot right here, you just start seeing this guy. He's just, oh yeah, kind of joking around, having a good time, like really goofy. Like you're expecting this big bad. If you watched us last week, I'm like, even though I knew it wasn't going to happen, it would have made sense if Marvel would have listened to me. The whole Ultron thing would have been great. And Cash is not happy.
My dog, yeah.
But you have this whole thing. But I guess here's the thing that was good though, is like with the Mandarin, once they figured out he was a joke, they're kind of like, eh. The whole time, Loki and Sylvie were just like, we're not letting our guard down. We're not trusting anything right now. So I think that helped move the episode and not feel too like, really, this is a joke. Like this is what we're doing. So
yeah. The dynamic between Loki and Sylvie. This was my favorite back and forth with these two in this episode, because they were really at odds with what to do. And the more, let's just go ahead and say who this guy is. I'm gonna let you say it, because I don't want to call him. What is it? The TVA kept calling him the clock lady. First off, I thought the clock person was the one behind it the whole time. I was like, don't do that.
Yeah. I thought I would have been okay with it too, just because of who the voice actor is. She's done a lot of voice acting for our childhood cartoons and current cartoons.
Who is it?
Tara Strong. Is her name? Yeah, Tara Strong.
Right.
She's the one who did the Miss Minutes. She's done stuff for Rugrats, Hey Arnold, like just all this stuff.
That'd be pretty good.
Yeah,
I like her even more.
I'm pretty sure. I could be getting her mixed up. I'm pretty sure she's also the one who voiced Harley Quinn in the animated series of Batman. So someone can fact check me on that one. I'm pretty sure that's her though, but because she's just been in so much, so maybe I just lump her into that. But I'm pretty sure that was her.
All kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So that's who that is. So if it was her, I would have been okay with it, just because I'm like, she deserves it, like, because she's done so much stuff. But yeah. So going into this, like what ends up happening is, and he basically gives it away, right? Like what he does is he goes in, he's like, I've been known by many names, and he says, I have been known by like the one who remains. Yeah. And then he says a leader. he says, what's the other one? There's one I wanted to get to. But either way, he says conqueror.
Yeah,
And that right there just
Yeah.
gave it away. This
Yeah.
is a version of Kang the Conqueror. And he talks about, he gives this whole spiel on how, yes, he's the one who put the timeline together because there are so many multiverses. And yes, he talks about how other versions of himself were benevolent and they just wanted knowledge and they wanted to learn more. They wanted to help other universes, all that kind of stuff. And then after, but of course, after that, he realized there are a lot of versions of him that they just want to conquer every multiverse,
Yeah.
right? And and that's where you see the conqueror and angle coming in and stuff like that. And once he said like, the conqueror, I'm like, okay, so we are introducing Kang the Conqueror. I think I talked about this on our first Loki episode.
Yeah.
And so I think we talked about it there. And I think we talked about it in another episode. We were like, where does Marvel go from here? And so like, and these were all speculations and rumors. So it wasn't just me thinking, but it was like, okay, Kang the Conqueror would be a good villain to bring in. That would be just as powerful and frightening as Thanos. And so this was just like, it's him. This is who it is, and we'll talk about it more in a second. But I want to hear your thoughts, Gary, some more on even that point, because that reveal was like what 10 minutes into the episode.
Yeah, it was quick. It was very quick, and so when they revealed that's who it was, and he started to explain why he created TVA, why he has these policies in place, and he's claiming, he's saying, you know what, I traveled to the 31st century, is that what he said, and I saw different variants of myself, and they're not all as nice as me. And he talked about the differences and how it created an all-out universal war, I think is what he called it. And to keep that from happening again, he created the TVA. And the whole question around this series, but mainly this episode, is not having the chances of chaos and war worth robbing people of their lives and their free will? He feels like it is, and so he creates that. And Loki and Sylvie going back and forth. That was the best part of the episode, in my opinion. They're going back and forth. She still wants to kill him, and Loki's like, let's try to, let's talk about this. And then it goes on, and then they go back and forth. A great fight, great battle. But my thoughts on this, I really wanted, when Efren told me his theory on Ultron, I really wanted that, because I'm like I said, I'm a fan of Ultron, but I also didn't want to get my hopes up and be disappointed when it didn't happen. But when they started to reveal this and he started to explain why it exists, it was like, I get it. I get why, and I get why they want to stop him. So the back and forth between Loki and Sylvie, and he wanted it to stop as well. But he also warned them. He said, if you take me out, you don't know what's coming behind me. And so we got a comment here from our good buddy Denzel. Hello, Denzel. How are you? He says, Sylvie can't trust and Loki can't be trusted. Yeah, there it is. Right there. That could be the slogan for the whole show. Boom. Yeah, she can't trust and he can't be trusted. So that boils it down. But yeah, their back and forth was great. And Kane in the middle, he who remains, as they called him, he sat and just watched all of it, and he wanted to be taken out. And he said, I know everything that's going to happen up until this point. I don't know what you're going to do. So this was a great reveal. At first, like I said, I was concerned because, like we talked about before, Marvel has got some villain problems. They do. We talked about that in our Black Widow review. It's got some villain problems. And I was like, here we go again. But the more he talked, the more he's like revealing why he's the mastermind, why he does what he does. I was into it. And, but hey, Efren, welcome back. We had a great, great comment from our good buddy Denzel that really boiled down the chunk of the show. We can't trust, and Loki can't be trusted.
Yeah,
your conflict. So I was just talking about how the more he talked and the more he revealed why he did what he did, the more you kind of understand why things are the way they are. Right. And it is preventing all-out chaos and war worth robbing people of their free will? And that is the question. And honestly, I thought about, and not comparing the two, but I also went back to because I just watched Infinity War and Endgame again for like the 19th time, and it goes back to that question of what Tony Stark wanted to do, to protect everything. It's kind of that same question, but it was robbing people of their freedom, and so respect. So I've talked enough, so I'll let you take over now.
It's all good. I just don't know what you had talked about, but I guess just throw a couple stuff here. I mean, you do see this angle here where it's just they're really trying to like they're ready for war, right? They're on the same page. They're just ready to go into this together. We've seen this very quick growth. One thing that kind of bugged me is when he was like, "Don't ask me how I know, but like I've been there," and it doesn't end in a good place when he's trying to like convince her and stuff. And he just like we have this very quick growth. Maybe I think they're just wanting us to assume that the quick growth happened because he saw his future, and so Loki. Loki.
Yeah.
So I think they want us to assume he's been processing this the entire time. That's why he had such quick growth. So they're in it, and then you see them also just kind of like once they hear everything. I mean, you got to admit, like once you hear all this, it's a lot to take in. And you obviously see Loki just straight up being like, okay, well, what if he's telling the truth? Like, this is our opportunity. She's like, well, you just want the throne. Well, of course, she's thinking that because she's also a Loki. She understands how Loki thinks.
Yep.
And he's like, this isn't about that. I mean, even for me, I'm like, just say it. Just say this is about us being together for eternity. Like, just freaking say it, like, because to me, it's like he's already said that. So just reminder of it. But they just had this debate. And this was actually a shot that I personally appreciate. I personally just thought it was kind of cool. I don't know how big we can see it there.
Yeah.
I couldn't find a bigger version of it, but it was just kind of cool. Like you see this setup here of how they're now debating this. You can see the peril in the window there in the back, and you can see, all right here. And then you can see, but also like fireplace, which to me, fireplace is always like, hey, it's a place of peace, right?
Yeah.
It's a place we try to talk about. So like they're trying to have this conversation here, but it's difficult for them to do it because she just wants her one thing, her vengeance. That's all she cares about. And Loki's trying to grab a hold of his own destiny, and he sees this is how we can grab a hold of our own destiny, even if it means nobody else gets to have the free will.
Yeah.
So
I think
continue to have that struggle.
Sylvia was prepared to kill whoever was pulling the strings. If she walked in and saw her mother doing it, she was going to kill her. You know, I think she was ready to do that. I also think it's interesting. I forgot to mention that before they got to Kang, right?
Kang. Kang.
Yeah. Before they got to him, Miss Minutes gave them an offer from him to let them have everything they've ever wanted. Loki could kill Thanos, have the Infinity Gauntlet, and I forgot what she could have her life back, and then just move on. And they didn't accept the deal, and which I guess shows that quick change, I guess. But Loki, we got introduced to, he'd be like, okay, where's that glove?
Yeah.
So
but he was like, we'll take our chances. Like it was, it was something completely different that was coming through their mindset, and so just kind of having that struggle, and then just seeing what I found ironic was how at the end, because Loki, like you said, or Denzel said, Loki can't be trusted, right? And she doesn't trust anyone. But what ended up happening was it wasn't Loki for once. It wasn't Loki the one being who double-crossed the person he was working with. He got double-crossed for once. And I thought that was good. I thought that was interesting for him to get a taste of his own medicine at the hands of himself, but a different version. And so just seeing that, and then seeing how when they went to that shop, how just like utterly heartbroken he was, and how he was just like, gosh, man, this is what it feels like just seeing all that, because it was almost like probably a mixture of emotions. Like obviously he really cared for himself and Sylvie, which again still makes sense. Like we've talked about before, the only person he can love is himself. But he has that heartbrokenness, but then he also, it's like this was his chance to be someone different, and now it's gone. So he's just like, now what? And so I thought that was kind of cool. Now I'm still like, Gary, I got to be honest with you, I'm still kind of like, I still don't know if I appreciate all this heartwarming crap from one of my villains. Like I'm still like, it's Loki. Like I still want him to be a jerk, and now he's a good guy. And it's just me personally. I still don't know how I feel about it.
No, I get that. And it's been a bit much too. Every episode has had a giant chunk of it dedicated to that. And it's like, just hint at it, we don't need it all the time. You know?
And what I didn't appreciate either is like as he's become more and more of a good guy, less and less of a skilled like fighter and
Yeah.
magician he's been. It's like he's losing his skills and his powers and his abilities because he's being a good guy. Which
Yeah.
to me, I'm just like, this makes no sense. Like, why would you do that? So
Going
I didn't
back to that
appreciate
Dread
that either.
episode 3, he got beat up by random dudes on a train,
Yeah.
you know? So, yeah. Is it, and I keep going back to, and don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the show very much. I love how it ended season 1. We'll talk about that in a minute. However, but I keep going back to, is this the same Loki from the original Avengers? Like
Yeah.
it's taking me out a little bit because it's like, how, because I just don't, they're so different, you know, and there's very little time removed from that. And it just, that bugs me a little bit, you know,
Yeah.
because you know me, don't mess with movies that I love, you know, Rise of Skywalker, don't mess with Empire Strikes Back, you know,
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi, and The Last Jedi,
Yeah.
and Grown Ups 2. Yeah. You know, so anyway, but so yeah, that has been my biggest issue with it, and I agree with you on that. It's been a little bit much. On the flip side, I like the stuff with him and Morbius. Horrible
Mobius.
name. Mobius. Morpheus. I like that stuff, you know, but the stuff, it's just been way on the nose. It's like, settle it down a little bit. Calm down, Loki. Dang. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So looks like we'll have a little bit of debate here. Denzel says that Loki's always been a good guy. He just found it easy to go after his own intentions. A little confused, but he's got the spirit. Well, see, Denzel, and here's the thing, Denzel. As a comic guy, Loki's never been a good guy, ever. Like that's not in his character. And maybe this is where there might be a little disconnect for some people, like myself and others who, I mean, and this isn't like, oh, I read the books. I hate those people who are like, I read the book, so I'm better. That's not what it is. But I already have a character like ingrained in my mind, right? And then even through the MCU, like he's always been the vengeful bad guy because he was jealous of Thor, and then that jealousy turned into him finding out that he was adopted, and then finding out that he was just a pawn in Odin's schemes to try to have peace with the Frost Giants. And then of course Odin's like, well, I still loved you as my son, and he just couldn't believe it. So then now he's always just had like, you know, there was his backstory, right? Like there was his backstory to where he's angry all the time and he's seeking vengeance and he wants to have the throne because he wants to prove that he's worthy of leading from a place of leadership. I mean, think of Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
You know, he made himself Odin. He's going to rule. Like he wants to be that person that takes, I mean, because every villain, there's been some trauma that takes them down this path, right? And then they become a villain, except for some people who are just sociopaths and crazy and blah, blah.
Some people just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah, exactly. So like through the entire MCU, he's been a bad guy that's had this slow progression to being probably more of an anti-hero, but I guess Thor Ragnarok pushed him more into the hero section.
Yeah.
But I mean, even like Infinity War, it was like, you know, he still stole the Tesseract because he was still seeking that power, and he still screwed everyone over. Now that one was probably more towards what Denzel's saying. It's easier for him to go after his own intentions, which at that point in the MCU, I would agree with that.
Oh yeah,
I would 100% agree with that. And so I think it's just this Loki picks up right after the events of Avengers.
Yeah,
he hasn't had that time to make that growth. He's still bad, but I think that's what they want us to do, is to say separate this Loki from the Loki you know in the MCU.
I don't want to.
And I think that's the hard part. I think that's what we're both struggling with.
Yeah, and yes, absolutely. And Denzel, my good buddy, my good friend, miss you. Tell the people of New York he's always had good intentions. You know, tell Tony Stark's therapist that he's always had good intentions. You know, what he went through after that. So I gotta respectfully disagree. And so watching Loki through all the MCU, I didn't truly trust Loki until the beginning of, Infinity War. Where Thanos kills him and he tries to stab him. That was the moment I was like, that's the first time I trusted him. But look at that was like Infinity War, you know.
Right.
So it's just hard, you know. But you know, it is what it is, I guess. They gotta move on. They gotta do something, I guess. But
yeah. So if anybody else is struggling like we are, I think what we all have to come to is this is a different Loki. This isn't the same Loki that we, grew up with, if you will, through
Yeah.
the MCU. This is a different Loki, and we're just going to have to try to do our best to say, okay, like that's
Oh,
who this is. So, and I will say another thing that I thought was interesting that I did not see. Like once it came up, and I was like, okay, this is going to end up being something. He said Conquerors. Like, okay, a lot of the stuff was predictable, but the thing that was not predictable was the ending, where he comes out, he meets up with Mobius, he meets up with 15. I think it's what her
yeah.
number
Something
was.
like
And he was like, dude, here's everything that's going on. We found
that.
him. We did this. And
Yeah.
they're like, who are you? Who are you? And then now all of a sudden we get this shot, which I thought was, pretty dang cool. Which just, again, oh, it's so tiny. I thought it was bigger. My bad. So, but we see there is this statue. Now this is, now if we look at, and I'm going to try to point, if you look at like right here, to his collar and stuff. This outfit right here, this is Kang the Conqueror. That's who this is right here. Like this is his outfit. The only difference is he's not wearing a helmet. It's the face of the other guy. But this outfit right here, all this right here, the way he's standing, Kang the Conqueror always stands like this. Because of his brilliance and advancements in technology, he knows how to float. He can control time, all this kind of stuff, right? I mean, this is how he becomes a conqueror of multiverses. Like this is who he is. So when they brought up this right here, he is now in a timeline that either because everything got messed up, he got pushed back into the time in the same timeline he was in, but now the timeline has changed via Back to the Future-esque, where Kang is now the ruler. Or B, he got pushed into a different timeline, but that one doesn't seem as right, I guess, that he would be pushed into a different timeline where all this stuff is happening in sequence. Because it seems like, at least the way they presented it, the ending, like they killed him, everything went haywire, all the multiverses went haywire. You're seeing Mobius and 15 trying to figure stuff out. They're like, what's going on? So it seems like this is all in sequence. It seems like he got pushed back in the same timeline, but now you're seeing that
It's different.
it's different because remember, they were at the end of time. So to be kicked back into this spot in this timeline, he had to go back in time. And then now Kang has taken over. So I think this is where the MCU is now showing is like, dude, Kang is the big problem now. And that's what it looks like. Because this statue, I mean, this is him. That's who that is, all that stuff. So,
yeah, I thought this was very well done. This was a great way to wrap up the episode because and you don't know for a little bit what has happened because you think that is the Morbius and the 15 that we know. So he approaches them and they start talking to him and he says, "You're an analyst, right?" Basically saying, "Figured out." But he's like, who are you? And then that moment was like, oh, they don't know. And then the reveal of the statue, and it was just really cool. I really liked how they did that. It was really well done. And then in the whole, so Sylvie ends up killing him, which creates all this chaos, and so this is what, correct me if I'm wrong, is this seems to be what the MCU is using as a bridge to the multiverse of madness and Spider-Man and everything. So I thought it was done really well how they did that because it shows it's not going to be, it shows. So when we go to those new stories, we're going to understand why it's doing what it's doing because we got this. So, that was really fun.
Yes, and it seems like right now, I don't know if you felt this, Gary, but it seems like right now that, to be quite honest with you, it felt like all we needed really was WandaVision and Loki to set us off into the new MCU. Because I really just don't see how, other than tying up some loose ends, I don't see the point. Like this Loki show made me like Falcon and Winter Soldier even less. Because
Same.
I can see how WandaVision ties into the MCU in the future. It makes sense. I'm glad we got that show. Even though it's probably my least favorite of the three, it was still needed. This one, I can see how it was needed, especially the way it ended. Okay, this whole show was needed. And then it's like, what's the point of Falcon and Winter Soldier? Like, why? Like, they're going to have to do some big stuff to try to tie this all in together with that. Unless it was just, we're tying this off and we're done. But but I did like that they did this with this and I like that it's Loki. And I thought that was fitting. Because with Avengers, with the Avengers Thor, going into Avengers, this whole Infinity War gauntlet stuff that we got with the MCU so far, a lot of it, I mean, yes, Thanos was going to do what he wanted, but a lot of it
Mhm.
got kickstarted because of Thor and Loki. I mean, remember
Yeah.
that until Thor showed up, they had no idea there was threats from outside of the universe.
Hmm.
And so now Earth is known as this. Now you have the Avengers, you have all this stuff. Thanos now knows of the Avengers, knows of Earth, knows of. I mean, he already knew about the Infinity Stones, but he's like he gave him one. They found another one. So like it seems like Loki kind of kicked it off, and here we are once again, where Loki is now kicking off a new big
Yeah.
bad and a new big threat because of his involvement. So I thought that was pretty cool too.
That is cool. Yeah, I didn't think of that. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So I agree with you. So you can, and I need to go back and watch some WandaVision because I want to see if at any point what happened in this reflects in that, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these two definitely that spark. That's the spark that the MCU needs, and so yeah. So I think I like WandaVision a little bit more than you did, but I definitely if I'm choosing which one's the best so far, I think Loki is probably my favorite of these Disney Plus series so far.
Yeah.
Just 'cause it was very well done except for a couple things.
Yeah.
And we get a somewhat of an end credit scene. You know, we get
Yep.
confirmation of a season 2. So
Yep, exactly. You get that. So that's why I will now fix the title. It says Loki season finale. Because we were all told these things were going to be one off, one season just to tie into the next phase and all that kind of stuff. But at the end, they said season 2, Loki will return in season 2, like they've done in past movies where this character will return in this movie or da-da-da. So we are getting a season 2, which is big news. From that, I don't think a lot of people knew. I don't think anybody knew outside of Marvel and stuff, obviously. So we're getting to season 2, which tells me that we'll see Multiverse of Madness. We'll see Spider-Man Far From Home. And then we're going to see that. I mean, they're going to have to be a build-up to an Avengers type of movie. Even though Feige said they're done doing Avengers movie, I think he lied through his teeth. There's no way that you're going to have a few characters take down Kang. Maybe a few characters can try, but this is an Avenger level threat. They're going to have to bring those who are left back together to fight this threat. Maybe this is how they're going to tie in X-Men and Fantastic Four and stuff. I don't know.
Oh yeah, forgot about that.
Yeah, they're going to have to do a lot with that. So we'll see. It's going to be very interesting, especially since they don't have Tony Stark. He's a big reason on how they take care of Kang, historically speaking. So they're going to need another really, really smart person that they don't have right now. That's why I think it has to be Fantastic Four because of Reed Richards and his intelligence.
Yeah.
This is all speculation. This is all my guesses. But somehow they're going to have to tie it in that Loki's now going to have to be a part of this, and we're going to get a second season that's going to tie into some more stuff, which this is what they should have done when they did Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and they did the Netflix series, all that stuff. This is how they should have done it. Make these shows that we're watching worth something. Make it count something, not just, oh, this is going on behind the scenes. No, it's tied into everything. This is how they should have done it.
Yeah. And when as soon as it ended, I was like, okay, because I'm still thinking, I'm still thinking one show, one season, and then go to the end credit. We see that stamp, and I was like, when it stamped, there's going to be a season 2. That was when I liked it more, because we also have the lady, she's going in to try to figure things out. I can't remember. I'm horrible with names. So we still got her storyline going on, and I'd like to see. I think we'll see. Multiverse of Madness, Spider-Man. What was it called again?
No Way Home.
No Way Home, and then maybe Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Loki season 2, and then maybe in all that Kang's involved in all those in some sort of fashion, and then we get that big Avengers type movie. It's kind of like sparking things all over again. So
yeah,
cool.
Quite possibly. Yeah, and Denzel, hanging with us. Thanks, Denzel, for hanging. But or do they have Tony multiple timelines or multiverses? We'll see. We'll see what they do. The only downside to bringing back Tony from a multiverse and stuff, it kind of cheapens his death in Endgame.
Yeah.
But then now logistically speaking, I don't think he has any more contracts and stuff. I think he's legit done. So if they do it, they might bring it back as like a female Tony, or maybe it's a different timeline where his daughter has now taken over or something.
I can see that.
Or it's Pepper Potts or something like that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's how they bring it back.
Yeah, Robert Downey Jr. I've watched several interviews of him. He was on Joe Rogan. He did a couple things, and he's done with the character.
Yeah.
And rightfully so, because he's done plenty. And
He's kicked the whole thing off, and now he
yeah.
wrapped it up beautifully in Endgame. I think he's good.
Please, Marvel, don't cheapen that moment
No.
in Endgame.
Yes.
Please. I would just please don't.
Yes.
So,
yeah, listen,
but
Marvel,
like
you're already on thin ice with me, Marvel.
Yeah.
Do things right.
Please don't mess with Endgame Infinity War. He got perfection there, in my opinion. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. So, anyway, now I'm concerned. Denzel, why'd you have to say that?
Hey, the man's just thinking. The man's thinking out loud.
I get it. But, don't make me worry.
Yeah.
So Efren, I think I just had this thought. Be a big undertaking. And I know we want to prevent this channel being just a superhero channel.
Yeah.
But I think we need a deep dive in the first phase of the MCU.
Just the first phase?
Or just, I think, of everything up until this point. What do you think?
Bro, we need to make like separate videos that we just upload. That's going to be long.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It just popped in my head, just spitballing here online, but just to kind of like a rewatch and just kind of go back into that world. I don't know.
Maybe so.
But
I think to only be fair, if we're going to do a deep dive like that, maybe we should save it for later because we need to deep dive some Batman and Dark Knight first.
You're right. Forget what I said. Yeah.
Priorities, my man. Priorities.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah. So there you go. So those are kind of our thoughts. Hey, I know I didn't prepare you for this, but let's wrap this up in this way.
Yeah.
How about we just rate the series, my man?
Sure.
I know we didn't prepare for this.
No.
But we will rate this series, and I'll go ahead. I'll go ahead and start. I think you started our Black Widow one. So honestly, all in all, even though if you guys have been following along, I've had my gripes, I've had my issues. Like I said, I'm kind of skirting on thin ice with Marvel because of some of the stuff that they're doing with characters and things like that. But that's for another day. But all in all, this season as a whole, I think I have to go with 4.
Yeah.
4 out of 5 Hail Marys. So Gary's the same.
Yeah.
I still think this Loki show was very, very good. I think everyone needs to watch it, especially just with what they're doing in the direction. This was a must watch. There's a lot of great things about this show. A couple hiccups, but not enough hiccups to go down to just okay. I thought this was a very good show.
Yeah, I agree. It was very good. Had some hiccups, like you said, but just with the Easter eggs it had in it, the creativity, the cast, it was very well done and a solid 4. Hats off, Marvel. And I do want to say one thing that I forgot to say. There was a phenomenal callback in this show early on. I think it might have been the dreaded episode 3, where it calls back to one of my favorite Thor moments. They're on the train. He's drinking something, and he says, "I'll have another," and slams the cup.
Oh,
awesome call! I laughed out loud. Yeah. Call back to the original Thor.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
I did not mention that on this show at some point. So I saw you, Marvel, or whoever created the show, and thank you for that because I love that Loki moment or Thor moment.
Yes,
I'll have another.
Yeah, it was very good. I mean, the stuff like that was good. The callbacks were good. I mean, they had to with the way the show was. That's why it's like, yes, you had your hiccups. I had my gripes, but it's still. This thing was still a 4. You should definitely check it out if you haven't, if you need to get caught up. Or if you're one of those, I want to wait till they're all out and binge away. I think you'll enjoy it.
That's what good buddy George is doing. He's starting it. Him and his wife are starting it now.
There you go. Totally good. Episode 3 will probably be the hardest to get through, but everything else around it was good. Again, some slow bumps and stuff, but it was worthwhile. And it is one of those things. If you've watched all the MCU movies and if you have any comic history, there's a lot of good stuff in there. And then, if you know the comic history of this stuff, you'll be like, eh. But hey, if it wasn't for those hiccups and this this probably would have been a 5, but it lands at a 4. Well-deserved 4. And check it out.
Yeah. I'm going to rank the Disney Plus shows so far. Loki, WandaVision, and then Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yep, that would be my ranking too.
Yeah.
Could be the exact same.
Thanks for watching. And
Thanks.
we and Real Pastors will return.
Yes, we will.
2, season 3. Season 4.
Season whatever. We will be back. And we will see you guys soon. Thanks for joining us.